Here in the US, I grew up learning a lot about Christopher Columbus. For instance, I don't know if you know this, but in 1492, he sailed the ocean blue, and then something, can't really remember what happened after that, but long story short, there was a lot of murdering and enslaving and rape and stuff. But this week, I learned a brand new thing thanks to the BBC. Columbus probably Spanish and Jewish, study says. Whoa, I thought he was Italian and Christian. So Spanish and Jewish seems weird, but I mean, if a study says he probably was, who am I to object? Oh, wait, I'm Rebeccawatson, official person who objects to terrible science and also terrible reporting on science. So hi, welcome to my channel. Let's go. The big news up front, despite that BBC headline, there is no study. None. Not even a preprint. Nothing. Nada. Instead, there is a TV show. A reality TV show in which a bunch of hypotheses about Columbus are eliminated until only one remains. The one about him being Spanish and Jewish. And it aired on a Spanish TV channel on Spain's national holiday. It was hosted by a Spanish researcher who has spent 20 years trying and failing to get anyone to take seriously his hypothesis that Columbus was Spanish. According to the Spanish newspaper El País, Jose Antonio Lorente first got permission to dig up the purported remains of Christopher Columbus back in 2003, finding just a tiny pile of Columbits, 150 grams or less than half a pound of bone fragments, the largest of which was 4 centimeters long or about 1.5 inches. He handed those Columbits over to forensic anthropologist Miguel Botello, who examined them for several days before determining that no decent DNA could be extracted, at which point Botello quit the project. Lorente then announced that the bits would be examined by 2 other geneticists, both of whom the newspaper reached out to, and they both said that they quit the project upon discovering that the samples were too degraded to work with. Despite this, in 2007, Lorente announced that he had conclusively proven the bits were in fact Columbus, having matched them to the purported remains of Columbus's brother. Which is weird because in this new TV show, Lorente admits that recent analyses show that the 2 different sets of remains are not brothers at all. They're actually second cousins. But, I mean, they probably definitely knew each other, okay? Look, stop asking questions and just accept this brand new finding, which is that these remains are definitely officially Columbus, and a DNA analysis of a partial profile of the Y chromosome establishes that they are Spanish and, yes, Jewish. Now, let's be clear, we're talking about genetics, so when we say Jewish, we're talking about the ethnicity, not a religion that one would practice. And there are genetic haplogroups or groups of genes that researchers see occur more commonly in some Jewish people. So if you have those particular markers, there's a chance that you have Jewish ancestors somewhere in your past. However, race and ethnicity are messy concepts that do not map perfectly with our genes, so people from nearby regions may share some of those genes without having any Jewish ancestors. As Antonio Salas, who runs the Population Genetics and Biomedicine Group at the Santiago de Compostela Health Research Institute, said, this hypothesis that the remains represent a Sephardic Jew is, to say the least, surprising. There is no Y chromosome that can be defined exclusively as a Sephardic Jew. Now, as damning as all that is, it's even worse when you hear that Lorente was not simply referring to Jewish as an ethnic group. The hypothesis his TV show set out to provide evidence for is that Columbus was in fact a secret Jew, practicing Jewish customs in private while publicly just pretending to be Catholic. This genetic discovery seemingly supports that, just how I found out I'm 1% Finnish, which explains why I love saunas, and when I turn 72, I'll leap to my death from a cliff. Hold on, that was Sweden. But let's put aside all of the DNA pseudoscience for a moment. If you picked a random person living in Spain in the late 15th century, you would have a decent chance of finding someone who was pretending to be Christian but was secretly Jewish. Muslims and Jews were driven from the country with extreme violence, and many people either converted to Christianity or pretended to convert to Christianity to avoid being uprooted or murdered. Is it possible that Christopher Columbus was one such crypto-Jew? No, he wasn't. And you know how I know? Forget the bad science. Forget the degraded DNA of the supposed Columbits. Forget the faulty thinking that DNA is destiny. Let's just look at Christopher Columbus, the guy, and what we know about him. For a start, we know that his name since birth was Christopher. Or, Christopha or Cristobal or, whatever. But the meaning is the same, Christ bearer, as in Jesus Christ, as in the guy Christians can't get enough of, but Jews can take or leave. But Rebecca, what's in a name? Jews can name their kids whatever they want, you're thinking. Maybe they named him that because they were hiding, and that's a clever way to make it seem like they're Christian. Sure. But did Christopher Columbus also need to sign his letters expo ferens, a pun on his name that emphasizes the Jesus Christ bit? No, he did not. Did he need to test out every new pen by writing, "May Jesus with Mary be with us on the way," as his son reported in his biography of his father? No. So why did he? Because Christopher Columbus wasn't just a Christian. He wasn't just a Catholic. Christopher Columbus was a completely bonkers Christian. This is something that I did not learn in school, even after hitting high school and learning about all of the murder and rape and enslavement. Columbus didn't just decide to sail to the New World in order to get rich. He did it because he fervently believed that he was acting as the hand of God, and he pledged to use his wealth for the ultimate goal of launching a new crusade that would allow him to conquer Jerusalem for the Christians. Jerusalem. I know this not because of a tiny fragment of bone that contains a DNA mutation associated with religious fervor. I know it because he wrote it all down in his diaries and his letters, which have been examined by historians and dutifully cataloged. And those diaries show that Columbus was absolutely obsessed with conquering Jerusalem. And you're never going to believe this. You'll never believe it. But remember how many years ago I made a video explaining that American fundamentalist Christians are funding Israel because they think that it will lead to the rapture? Well, guess why Christopher Columbus wanted to free Jerusalem from the Muslim infidels? That's right, the fucking rapture. His diaries, along with reports from his contemporaries, show that he was deeply religious. Even on the ship, he prayed constantly. He attended Sunday Mass. He named every island he found with something honoring the Christian God, like Trinidad, as in the Trinity, and Santa Maria, as in the Virgin Mary. From those diaries, as well as letters he wrote and assorted notes he left behind, historians have noted that he was primarily obsessed with two things: converting everyone in the world to Christianity and conquering Jerusalem. The two big steps that have to be taken before Christians believe that all the Jews will go to hell forever and Christians will be rewarded with Jesus returning and enjoying heavenly paradise forever. For instance, in the opening of Columbus's diary, he laments the fact that no Christians have ever gone to China to convert everyone earlier, and he rejoices that he gets to go now to see how their conversion to our holy faith might be undertaken. As usual, links to everything I'm talking about are found in the transcript for this video, which is linked on my Patreon. The link is in the description box. I highly recommend, if this interests you, go read some of those historians, because I just don't have enough time to stress exactly how fucking obsessed Columbus was with converting everyone he met to Christianity and also invading Jerusalem. So, yeah, pretty impressive how much effort Christopher Columbus put into hiding his true Jewish religion. No, come on. In conclusion, there was no study. There's a decent chance that those bits of bone aren't even Columbus. There probably wasn't any DNA to extract anyway. If there was, it doesn't prove he was Spanish or ethnically Jewish. And if it did, it wouldn't be evidence that he was a practicing Jew, because we know for an absolute fact that Christopher Columbus was an extremist Christian fruitcake. And finally, I'll end with this. Maybe it's time for people, Italians, Spanish, Jewish, other, to stop trying to claim this giant piece of shit. Like, was he an important man in humanity's history? Yes, undoubtedly. Was he a hero worth celebrating? No, obviously not. Come on. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.